Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the platform Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Jasmine Harden, and I'm here to create a space for Black minds, voices, and culture to thrive. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get into this episode. Hello. Thank you so much for joining me back here on the platform Let's Talk About It. This is your host, Jasmine Harden. This is your host, Jasmine Lynn, and I appreciate you for tuning back in this week for another episode. I initially was going to make this episode something else, but considering the energy levels I have right now, the type of weekend I had, just where I'm at in my personal life in general, I don't feel like I will be able to give the topic its what it deserves, the energy it deserves, as well as the attention, and just overall I wouldn't be able to give my 100% to the topic the way that I believe that the topic deserves. So I'm kind of pulling the audible right now and just going to talk a little bit about whatever comes to my mind, honestly. I feel like I have a tendency to put a lot of pressure on myself to come to this platform with a plan. And that's just because I care and I want to make sure that the content that I'm providing is that of substance and that people feel like when they come and listen to this podcast that they're able to walk away gaining something. And I think a lot of the pressure that I put on myself kind of stems from my own perspective of myself and what I'm capable of and what my strengths and values are as an individual. And I know that being a fountain of knowledge, to say the least, is one thing I pride myself on. I am a combination of fun facts and random knowledge because I just appreciate learning and knowing stuff, honestly. So, knowing that about myself, I think it kind of contributes to how I feel like my listeners should feel when they listen to my podcast. And in reality, it doesn't even need to be all that. It can be whatever I make it. Even if you guys only come to the platform just to kiki or just to pass the time while you're doing your mundane things, whether it's chores, your commute, exercising, doesn't matter. But just being able to commune with the listeners, I think is becoming more of a priority for me, especially as I'm developing my podcast and my vision for it. And building a community is really a big part of what I think will make this successful in my eyes. So, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I got up here and at least presented you with something this week, even if it wasn't necessarily what ideally I would have liked. And I'm still going to definitely talk about the topic because I think it's important. But I'm just gonna flow. I'm just gonna flow today. One thing that has been really prevalent for me over the course of the last month, I'll say, is that you really, and not you, anyone listening, but just you as in the universe and people who find themselves in it. But we have to really appreciate the present in order to gain some peace in a way, because I think that, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but I've had a lot going on in my personal life as of late. Over the course of the last 2 months, I'll say a lot of big changes all happening back to back to back to back to back, and with that, priority shifting, and taking L's and getting W's, and experiencing those wins and losses, um, kind of intertwined, at one time even, and how it kind of really stretches you and shows you the the stability of your mental health, the stability of your emotional health, of your physical. It kind of just exposes you and where you're at when you're experiencing a lot like that all at once. And I've this is not the last time I believe this will happen, and it's definitely not the first. But to be able to recognize how much I've grown over the years, like even from just a year ago, what I was experiencing, because to be honest, this time of year, I've come to the conclusion, I'm starting to realize this time of year is just a busy time of year for me and the world, and there's just a lot going on for whatever reason during springtime. And it's really just because, if you think about it, the science behind it, you go from winter, it's all cold, and well, if you live in a cold area, but things are a little bit slower and, not as fast paced. And then spring comes and then it's warm outside and it's allergies and it's more people out. The crime rate goes up. It's just so much. It's like life, as they say, it comes back to life during the springtime. And um, it's just interesting to me to see how far I've come year by year and how I've navigated the challenges that I've gone through. And I'm just really grateful. I'm in a I'm in this weird space because I'm very grateful, but like the gratitude doesn't necessarily feel like what I thought it would feel like. Like when I was manifesting these things and I was having meditations and visualizing and really trying to wrap my mind around things that are now a part of my life and becoming even bigger parts of my life. And now that I'm here, it's like I'm grateful and I appreciate it, but I'm tired. Like there's just things that come with all of that I wanted. And I knew that was the case, and I knew it would be the case. And I think the gratitude comes in because I genuinely don't understand how I would have accomplished everything that I've accomplished without my relationship with Christ and without being grounded in something that's true and that's real. Um, that has provided me a lot of clarity in moments where I'm like, I'm overwhelmed with not only gratitude, but I'm overwhelmed with like, I have a lot going on that I need to consider. I'm overwhelmed with trying to balance work life balance and trying to take care of myself and still feel like I'm not just a work machine and all I do is work and sleep and eat and work, sleep, eat. Because I don't know about you guys, although I have a very adamant, I'll say, work ethic, I am also very big on not allowing work to consume my life. When I start to feel like work is consuming my life, I don't like how that makes me feel. And I've had to kind of tap in with myself and realize that about myself and figure out ways to navigate that. And even that is something that I knew about myself for a long time. And I think I really discovered it once I became an adult. But now where I'm at, I'm able to navigate these things a lot better. And that's not to say that anything I do is perfect, because there are still some days where I'm like, I'm a donkey on the edge, cue Shrek. But at the same time, I recognize that God wouldn't have me where I'm at right now if I couldn't handle it. And turn the clock back 3-4 years, I know for a fact that version of myself wouldn't have been able to handle the things that I'm trying to do right now. So it's just a lot. It's a lot to process. Like, even that is a lot to process. Like, knowing you're exhausted and just like, but then knowing like this is what I want and this is the life that I pray for, and I know that I'm capable. Um, and I just have to recognize where my faith comes from. Like, even getting on this platform right now, I was at work really trying to I was looking at my notes, and I was really trying to like, okay, when I get home, I'm going to record and it's going to be this, you know. And then I got home. I almost fell asleep as soon as I got in the house, y'all. I lied to you not. I almost fell asleep as soon as I got in the house. My cat came and licked my foot. random, random anecdote. But yes, my little fur baby, she came and licked my toes, and I was like, okay, well, now I gotta get up because ill, and that was uncomfortable. You officially made me uncomfortable. But all jokes aside, I love her. But literally, so I sat for a while and was like, I don't know how I'm about to record this episode. I have no clue. Like, my brain, like, it has so much to say about this topic, but like I have nowhere to begin how to start talking about this because I'm just so tired. Like, I'm just so tired. And to be able to follow along these notes and make sure it's going to take way longer than it needs to, I don't even have that much time because my bedtime is right around the corner. I have to be up for work in the morning. You feel me? Like, just adult things that you have to consider. Like, okay, I need to be able to get rest, because to be a functional adult and not a miserable functional adult, you gotta get your rest. You gotta feed yourself. You gotta rest. So, you know, even that, like, I now look at me. I'm over here cracking jokes, and I'm able to still present something. And I feel like a lot of that came from building my faith as well, which is why I keep going back to my faith so much, because the more I go through, the more I realize like this is the biggest consistency I have in my life that I can remember. The longest consistency that I've had in my life. And although I didn't utilize the consistency my entire life, like I definitely did not. I even want to say I turned away from it at certain points. But now where I'm at, I realize like I would not be who I am without my faith. And I would not be able to show up the way that I can without my faith. And I'm just really grateful for being where I'm at. And I don't even know what I'm going to title this episode. I guess we'll see. Um, but yeah, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for being able to recognize where getting to a point where I can recognize where I need God to step into my life. I think that's really what has become something I'm sharpening, a skill, an instinct I'm sharpening in myself, recognizing where my abilities stop and where God can come meet me, How far do I need to go to say that I did my part? Because one thing about faith, it is not a one-way street. Unlike people think or try to describe it like, oh, you just have to believe in yourself. That was a Proud Family reference. The girls that get it, get it. But it's actually a multiple references because it was The Wiz as well, but we're not gonna go there. The point I'm making is you just have to believe in this thing and it'll happen, and just believe. And faith is a lot about believing, don't get me wrong now. It is a lot about that, but I also genuinely believe you have to it's this believe. But I also genuinely think that you have to be willing to do your part and then have faith that he will meet you where you need to be met. Because faith isn't just being lazy and then thinking God's going to do everything for you, or however you want to think about it. It's not magic. Faith is not magic. It's not snapping your fingers, twirling your wand, and then things just fall into place. Same with manifestation, same with visualizing, same with all these things that have become very popular in media and in conversation, depending on the groups you hanging with now. But yeah, that's something that I think is becoming really popular. And you hear people say do the work, but I don't think people talk about it with faith as much. So I think that that's a interesting take on doing the work, because you have to be willing to do your part. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough. I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, some things in my life, especially like I've mentioned over the last month, I've experienced so many changes and so many things. I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't know. And it's not because I can't know, but I'm not it's above my pay grade. I think at an advanced level, which is a beautiful thing, but at what point do I turn that thinking off and recognize, like, okay, where is this thinking taking me? What is this thinking helping? Is it feeding my anxiety, or is it feeding my ability to take my visions and my passions and my wants to the Lord so he can help guide me to being able to make those things happen? And that's just a big thing. Like, so many things, I'm like, this makes no sense, Lord. Look, I'm trusting you, but it's not making a lot of. I'm adding the numbers together, crunching the numbers, and the numbers are starting to kind of piss me off, for lack of a better way of putting that. And I apologize to anybody who doesn't like analogies. I am very big on analogies. Just so if analogies are not your thing, this is probably not the podcast for you, buddy. But yes, I'm doing the math, and the math is not mathing. The math is not mathing. And I that's the moment I realized, okay, did I do everything I needed to do? Yes. Okay. Any questions I had beyond the 1, 2, 3 steps that God set in front of me to complete, I need to take that as a cue to pray and move on. Because recycling the unknowns, recycling the questions and the anxiety, the fears, the all those things that cause your mind to burn out in a way, and just delivering it in a nice package for him to be able to take off of your plate. Because at the end of the day, one thing I'm learning, and a big part of faith, I feel like, is realizing I am human and I am not capable of everything. As much, especially talking to my people of color who are listening to this, but we have a tendency to really think that we have to be invincible, and we have to appear and command this invincible respect from the world because they already have pitted against us this idea that we are not worthy and we are not capable and we are not all these things, these negative connotations that they have attached to our existence. So we feel like we have to show up take on the world, do a million things, work 12 to 20 times harder than the people to our left and our right just to get the bare minimum. And in reality, you don't have to do that. You do not. That is not the prophecy. That is not the life that I believe God presented for me. That may be what the world presented, but that's not what I choose to believe my life will consist of. And that's because I know who I am and whose I am, and I know where my strength and my help comes from. So if I recognize that, just like any other person to my left or to my right, he will meet their needs the same way he'll meet mine. At what point do I realize I just need to show up and give my best and know that he sees me. He sees my heart, and he knows when you're giving your all. I'll put it that way. He knows when you're giving 100% and when you're doing the best that you can. And he knows when you're not. So, and that's not to be like, oh Lord, I got somebody looking over my shoulder. No, because he comes from a place of love every time. It's not like he's going to berate you or make you feel like how we make ourselves feel, like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I didn't work hard enough, so I don't deserve this and I don't deserve that. Everything good in life, a luxury in life, I need to earn it, and I have to work my butt off to get there, to get it or gain it or experience it. In reality, it's like, no, you'd be surprised how much faith will meet you where you're at. That's something I learned. And I won't say learn, but I was reminded of in a devotional I read recently. It was saying basically in layman's terms that faith meets you where you are at. The more faith that you have, the more God will meet you at that point of need. And really putting that into practice, like, let me test my faith. Let me test my faith in God. Let me see how God shows up for me. Let me take the back seat. Let me stop trying to be in control of everything. Okay, that's a big one. Let me stop trying to control every variable, every detail, every circumstance or outcome that could happen from this situation. And let me just do my part and leave it up to Him. Because at the end of the day, a no is not a negative thing. A yes isn't always going to be the most positive thing. I think we have such these human labels on experiences and words and all things that create the human experience. And we can think like, oh, if I didn't get this job, or I didn't get this scholarship, or I didn't get this acceptance, or I didn't get this, I didn't get the promotion, then I did something wrong. That's a reflection of my worth. And that's not the truth. That's what society wants you to believe, but that's not what your faith will have you believe. And your faith will tell you that every no is God redirecting you. Look, a yes is going to be something that you recognize to be something that, okay, God is providing this for me so that I can grow. He is not just giving this to me because whatever comes with this yes is going to challenge me to my next step of growth in this journey that we call life. And I think that having that ability to really reflect and introspect and change your mindset is just so important. It's just so important. And I guess I'll probably title this episode something about faith, because I do genuinely believe that my faith has been being strengthened a lot lately. And I already feel like I was in that phase, but like it's different when you're like, okay, you're hearing the word, you're getting in the word, and it's sounding good, and it's like, yeah, 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 pastor, and yeah, reading the Bible, like, yeah, he did that. I don't know who wrote this, but they did that. And actually being tested, okay, because it's different. It's like in school, you can read it all you want to now, especially math. Math used to get me, y'all. Math used to get me. I would look at and the math books, they give you the step by step. They'll give you each step and they'll add on each step. Like, they'll be like, okay, this is the simple way to do it. Okay, this is the little medium way to do it. This is the advanced way. Like it'll give you levels of like, okay, how can you solve this problem and give you A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. And then you get to the test, baby. And then you're like, wait a minute, what did that diagram say? What did that diagram say? Was it 2 over X or X over 2? I just don't remember. And I feel like I've been having a lot of those moments. Like even today, y'all, I told my sister I was on the phone with her on my way out. Actually, I wasn't. I had been talking to her while I was at work. And I got in the car and I told her, I was like, I just had a moment. Look, I just had a moment. And I'm glad I didn't let it consume me because I easily could have. But it was really, and it's something so simple, but I was walking out of work and I said, like, all right, have a good evening or see you tomorrow, whatever I said. And the two people I said it to just looked at me, y'all. Just looked at one of them actually didn't even really look at me. He just kept going on with the conversation he was going on. He may not have heard me. 9 times out of 10, I don't think that that's the case, but that's just me. um, Especially because whatever. But yeah, and one of the people acts like I'm kryptonite and never wants to speak to me. Like I don't do anything to this person, yet they act like they just don't want to speak to me. And I'm just like, and I kept telling myself from the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna just keep coming in and being nice and being who I am because I'm not a mean spirited person. I am not a mean spirited person. When I come into a room, I don't like to give off any negative energy at all. That is not, I don't even like people like that. So I don't want to emulate that type of behavior at all. I like to come in with a genuine spirit. And my spirit is a loving, kind, uplifting spirit, a joyful spirit, one that likes to enjoy life and laugh and have a good time and, you know, enjoy the good and the bad. And that was I just had to keep walking. I was like, don't say nothing, don't say nothing, just keep going. Walk to your car, Jasmine. Just walk to your car. Like it's not even necessary. But it really was sticking with me as I was walking to my car. Like I said, I ended up calling my sister afterwards and even kind of mentioning it, but not going too far into it. I didn't get that deep into the story. But kind of just having to like have that, give myself grace for having a human moment and feeling how I feel, but not giving my energy to a situation more than what I needed. And the takeaway I had from the situation was just that I am not going to let, because I was like, initially I was like, I ain't speaking to them no more. Forget it. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of talking to people and they act like I'm not here. I'm tired. And then I got to my car. Like I said, I thought about it some more, thought about it some more, gave myself a little bit of time to simmer down. And then I realized like I'm not letting these people change who I am. I'm not. If someone because and then it exposed my heart because why is someone not speaking back to me so detrimental to me to the point where now I don't even want to be nice to you anymore? The way people respond to my kindness and my love should not depict how I show up. If I want to be the person that I say I want to be, a person who commands respect, but comes in with love, then so be it. Because one thing they both haven't done is disrespect me. One may argue that ignoring me saying goodnight is disrespectful. I am one of those people. But I also think it's a reach because is it rude? Yeah. But disrespectful? Not really. You know, I what line do I say, "Oh no, you're not going to disrespect me." Every time that either one of those people have addressed me, they've been nothing but respectful, never given me any problems, So, and even when little things tried to happen, I was able to navigate them by the grace of God, literally, literally. Cuz I am blessed and highly favored and covered. Amen. But yeah, so what difference does it make if they say goodnight back? Like, I'm not losing sleep, I'm not losing money, I'm not losing anything by them saying it, and I'm not losing myself in the process of trying to adapt to my environment. No, I am who I am. I am who I am, and who I am is a person who lives to love people. Period. All people. So, yeah. Again, I don't know. I told y'all I was just gonna flow, and this is where we ended up. Um, but I just had to tell that story because I know I don't like to tell too much of my business. I'm actually a very private person, which is actually kind of perfect segue because that's what next week's episode is going to be about. Talking about introverts in the workplace. But yeah, I don't enjoy getting up here and just gushing about my life too much. I can do it if it's in a comedic way. But or in a vague way even. But that's something I really that is just a small example of ways that, like, I'm trying to find ways to incorporate my faith and just be grateful, because younger me may not have been able to respond that way. Younger me may have been bitter. Younger me may have been like, F y'all. You feel me? And just being able to recognize that I am so fulfilled that, like, the way people act towards me just rolls off my back like a duck in water. I And clearly, as you heard the story, it's not necessarily that easy. It may be a little bit more like oil and water, but still being able to recognize, okay, I do not have to allow my circumstances to define how I am going to show up, how my faith is going to be. And that is an important maturity step to get to. And I'm still working on it. Like I said, I never want to get up here and act like I'm perfect or feel like I have everything going on or figured out. But testing my faith has been something that has proven to be very beneficial for me, because it's not only something that it allows me to gain intimacy with the Lord, but it also exposes areas of growth in me. Like what I was just saying about how I had to realize, like, why do you care if people say goodnight back that much to the point where you want to be rude now? Like, what exactly is the motivation here? Why do we care that much again? Kind of having that realization, like, that was my ego stepping in and being like, nah, you ain't finna play with my face. Like, you ain't hear me say goodnight. Cause it's like, I mean, it's not that deep. It's just not. And yeah, that was that was all I have, to be honest. I don't even know how we got this much. I appreciate anybody who is still here listening to me rant and rumble on about faith and growth and a bunch of topics that I think will definitely be recurring on this podcast. I hope that this inspired you to get grounded, um, and to really test your faith and see where God can meet you. Um, I hope it encourages you to look for moments to be grateful, because I think being grateful also strengthens your faith, being able to recognize God's presence, as well as recognize your limits as a human, and being able to recognize that you have to be, there is no such thing as self-sufficiency. You have to be reliant on him. He did not equip us to deal with all of this. He equipped us to be able to rely on him. And I think that's a big takeaway to have from this episode, if nothing else. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm glad I pushed through and was able to get up here and talk about something, y'all. I'm definitely have some interesting topics coming up on the podcast. I've kind of been, going off course, to be honest, of my initial plans, as you can tell, because like I told you, I was definitely supposed to talk about something else. But I'm just grateful for my confidence even developing with this podcast. I have some more changes coming up that I'm excited about, personal and podcast professional. And I'm just excited overall about this platform and where it's going to go. And I'm just very appreciative of anybody who gives it any type of support, whether it's sharing it, listening, donating, liking a post, sharing a post. It doesn't matter. It all means so much. So much. And it is not overlooked or passed over. Like I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so exhausted as well. So kind of like I was talking about earlier, like it's a lot of competing emotions going on right now. So if I don't sound like I'm jumping off the walls, just know in my spirit, I'm doing like somersaults. Okay. I'm doing a backhand spring into a tuck, into a 360 rotation, Gabby Douglas, Simone Biles style. You feel me? Okay, clearly I'm tired, so it's time for me to get off. It's time for me to log off. But until we speak again, stay safe, stay well, and stay you. I appreciate you for being here. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to talking to you next time. I just want to express my gratitude for you taking time out of your day to share this space with me. I hope this episode was meaningful and you leave feeling enriched. I appreciate you for being a part of this community of listeners. I hope you gain some fulfillment out of your day. Please do not forget to go follow us here and on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at the platform LTAI podcast and Twitter at the platform LTAI. Also, share any episodes that you enjoyed with loved ones. I appreciate any help getting this community to grow. Sending positivity your way, this is your host, Jasmine, signing off. Stay safe, stay well, and farewell.